Before I talk about, this is the second portion of the presentation, and before I talk about the technology required, I do want to talk about how we, through our planning, have 7 silos which impact a student-centered learning culture. We are using the word culture in recognition that the student-centered learning is much larger and more complex than simply redefining what happens in the classroom. You can make a complex plan by simply redefining one overriding concept against which all other issues are measured or reconciled. But we have the 7 silos that include what and how our students will learn, effective student-centered learning experiences, impacting academic civic achievement facilitated by teachers. We also are talking about professional development, policies and processes, technical support, facilities, infrastructure, and systems and components. The MPS planning process, the heart of the planning process revolves around best practices within each of those 7 silos that are going to be encompassed. We've already talked about why we want to implement it and some of the identified problems, which we are going to get further in detail with some of the hindrances and obstacles. But I felt it was important to go back to the 7 silos that we are using when making this planning process. When we are talking about the plan that is used during the project for the district assessment, these are used again during the planning labs to identify the district-specific hindrances and obstacles to the student-centered learning, which we just spoke about in part 2. But I didn't get into the specifics of those hindrances. Also, the process follows a sequence of 4 questions in the diagram. Where are we now? Where do we want to go? How will we get there? And what defines success? And through all of the next tabs, we're going to be pinpointing and talking about that. Let's talk about some of the technology that we required, and then we'll go into where are we now. So the technology that will be required, student computing devices, when we look at current technology, touch-sensitive smartphones and tablets have taken over the industry. Those devices use web browser technology to provide their higher order functions. When we take a hard look at what the majority of our students need to meet their learning experiences both at school and from home, it is not a desktop or a laptop device. It's a web browser device. The planning lab participants are asked to describe what capabilities should a student computing device have based on their respective grade levels. And here were our responses. Pre-K to 2nd grade, we think that the touchscreen tablet, able to use interactive apps, wireless with internet access. 3rd through 5th grade, keyboard, mouse, wireless with internet access, have access to video camera and a microphone. Intermediate, we're talking about keyboard, passive stylus, video camera microphone, wireless with internet, video camera microphone, powerful enough for video creation and editing. And in high school, keyboard, passive stylus, active preferred, video camera microphone, wireless with internet access, video camera microphone, powerful enough video for creation and editing. Upon reviewing the requirements for computing devices, the MPS would suggest the following. Pre-K to 2nd grade device could be a 10-inch interactive tablet. Grades 3 through 12 could be some type of Chromebook. Teacher computing devices, it is important to note that the district instructional support application or the digital tools have not necessarily been updated to web browser-based interfaces. It may be the appropriate time for the district to research products available in the marketplace and implement changes there. Data networks, Today's 21st century learning environment requires students and teachers' devices to mobile, which in turn means most of the network connections in a school will be wireless connections. That in turn means that a school district must implement a high-density wireless network. The Columbus City Schools has implemented high-density wireless networking networks in all buildings. Voice communication. The district provides voice communications through a two-way communication pathway to classrooms via an intercom system and a two-way communication pathway from key campus personnel to other personnel, and external circuits via Centrix services. The intercom system is also used for classroom bell tone changes tied to a master clock. True differentiated classrooms have multiple types of activities occurring at one time, creating a noisy environment. Even though the teacher is not lecturing, they will need to communicate with their students. Therefore, every instructional space should have an infrared microphone system with powerful amplifier and speakers providing audio reinforcement for the entire instructional space. Instructional technology. Instructional technology should be driven by the district's vision for learning. Within this, the planning process, the participants clearly articulated meeting the district's strategic goals requires the vision of learning to embrace true differentiated learning in all instructional spaces. Student devices, computing devices as noted in the prior student computing device section. Sufficient units enabling 2-to-1. Now, I know that on the far right of the spectrum, we wanted a 1-to-1, but as we're moving toward this, a 2-to-1 ratio for grades PK through 12, depending on the grade level. 5 devices per classroom and 1 mobile cart for every 4 classrooms, giving quantity of mobile cart devices when added to classroom units provides classrooms with a 1-to-1 ratio. Middle school and high school, 3 mobile carts with sufficient devices for 1-to-1 ratio in a single classroom provided for every 6 classrooms. All student devices would have a mirroring application which enables selection and display of specific student devices for display on interactive LCD screen using the wireless network. Teacher device. Computing devices as noted in the prior teaching computing device section. Teacher device will have mirroring application, same as the student device. Same device provided for all administrative personnel. Interactive LCD display. 55-inch to 60-inch interactive LCD display. Larger unit does not enable mobility with the classroom. Streamlined mobile LCD stand, not a cart. Wireless stick PC running Windows kernel and mirroring app plugged into the LCD HDMI port. A unit can be moved within the instructional space dependent on student experiences, moved every class period as needed to meet instructional goals. Sound field enhancement system, infrared microphones for each teacher, auxiliary input for audio, audio mixer with powerful amplifier with accessible volume control, system muting sensor interfaced to local paging speaker, ceiling speaker distributed throughout the space for even coverage. Intercom system, 1 ceiling speaker, the handset for future, the VoIP, 1 VoIP phone with high wired connection to data networking. Wireless access point based on engineering design and site-based RF radio frequency analysis. Sufficient number of high-density wireless access points to provide coverage. And this is considered high impact. Teacher device must be untethered, enabling teacher to be in various locations within their instructional space, enabling the teacher to take the device home. When we get into what skills the teacher would need, before we get into the what skills teachers will need, I do want to talk about the scoping portion of this will be encompassed with what skills the teachers will need and what the facilitators will learn, and we'll talk about budgeting and things kind of summarized together. Before I get into that, let's talk about where are we now as people within this plan. The reader should understand, the reader of this plan, you, the board, that understand that this assessment is conducted through the lens of 21st century learning skills, student-centered learning. The MPS personnel conducted campus visits and interviews with a limited number of district administrators and teachers. The following represent interviewer impressions, not documented facts. The reader should understand, you, the board, that this process is also oriented to enable the planning facilitator to gain general understanding of the district within a very short amount of time. Several types of questions were asked of the district instructional staff and administrators. Topics included: does the district have a vision for learning? What knowledge and skills should students learn? And what formative data is available to the teachers which impacts their daily instructional activities? The planning participants also provided verification of the assessments through a process which enabled them to discuss and define the participation level of a number of the items listed herein. What and how kids will learn. What the kids learn. Standards utilized. The observations from the panel. Where are we now? Vision for the 21st century learning, district building, and classroom. There is an inconsistent understanding of the district vision for learning derived from the Columbus City School Strategic Plan. This occurs across all levels of learning community, from the executive level down to the classroom level. Few personnel at any level could articulate a vision of learning, most referring back to the strategic plan without any deeper understanding of how those concepts are fleshed out of the Columbus City schools. One principal mentioned that the curriculum and instruction with the 4E initiative, which we'll talk about. The instructional staff expressed that emphasis is placed on individual classrooms, meeting district and or state level testing expectations associated with annual assessments. It was also noted that other departments do not consider supporting a vision of learning as a part of their operational parameters. Equity of access. And I feel as if the equity of access, before we get into what the teachers will learn, the equity of access, where are we now? There is substantial inequity of access to digital resources at all grade levels, and this spans across the district. Most computing devices are located in dedicated spaces, implying that technology is taught as a separate content area. The district does not have a district-wide approach to acquisition of computing devices. Individual campuses or principals have discretion regarding how they expand their budget, and some of those budgets are heavily subsidized with federal and state at-risk allocations. More than 8,000 Chromebook devices were acquired in the last 2 years on a very inequitable basis. The 2015-2016 budget enabled the IT department to provide mobile carts with Chromebooks, which provided devices equitably to all schools, including those with few devices due to inequitable funding issues. The budget allocation was not sufficient in size or duration to address the overall inequity of access issue. When compared to most districts across the United States with regards to equity of access to digital resources for students, Columbus City Schools is below average. Learning, that there are individual teachers within the Columbus City school system who utilize 21st century learning methodologies and conduct formative assessments on a regular basis. However, those teachers have essentially created a contemporary learning environment on their own, not with district resources. There is little historical evidence of curriculum and instruction department focusing on creating an organized vision. It should be noted that there's a lack of flexible computing devices within the classroom creates a major hindrance for teachers attempting to use formative assessments to obtain data. The curriculum and instruction department did acquire a new digital resource for mathematics called ALEX. That application does encourage teachers to use 21st century learning methodologies and gather formative assessments. However, the inequitable use of technology does place a wide, district-wide hindrance. There is no district-wide organized approach providing digital content for that. The Curriculum and Instruction Department initialized